You made it! Welcome to Vienna. We are so glad you're here. This event is part of Vienna Up, the Startup Festival. Have you got your Vienna Up wristband? Put it on and enjoy special offers and activities. Swing by the festival home base, say hi, hang out, and enjoy Viennese Hour to sample local food, wine, beer, and soft drinks for free. And have some fun while making new connections. Visit partnering traditional Viennese coffee houses to sip a free melange, meet new contacts, check your email, or just have ideas both crazy and grand. Enjoy Vienna. Go to viennaup.com, sign up for the newsletter for daily highlights, and we'll see you at the home base.
Welcome everyone to Talent Garden Vienna. Big round of applause. My name is Raphael. I have the pleasure to do the welcoming and manage this wonderful campus in the heart of the 9th district. It's the third time that we collaborate actually with the Vienna Up, an amazing festival bringing together the whole innovation scene of Europe and in this case Austria. Today I'm super happy that we have a very nice topic we talk about with two panelists which actually worked for Talent Garden in the past. The co-founder of Talent Garden and the former country manager of Talent Garden. And this brings me to the importance of community. Like we always have this buzzword, community, and how important the network is. But today, having this wonderful panel, having also EduTech Austria here, really shows me the importance of a network, of a community. And I'm very happy that we are going to talk about a very important topic in the end, as a lot of people talk about upskilling, about reskilling, but today we will have some experts who really tell us what it is all about. Before we start, I would like to give a very big applause to Federico Coratolo, our event manager. He is not just the organizer of this wonderful event, but he is responsible for more than 100 events all over the years, bringing together the community. And I think these kind of events are really the accelerator to create our community and to make Talent Garden the place for explorers and innovators. It's my pleasure to welcome on stage now Bernhard Kaufmann, educational expert at the Austrian Economic Chamber of Commerce. And yeah, then we can start with our program, with our wonderful panel discussions. And afterwards, I invite you to stay here to enjoy a cold spritzer or cocktail and enjoy a networking session. Thank you very much. Enjoy the evening and welcome on stage.
Okay, so thank you, Raphael. Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a big pleasure to be here tonight and to participate at this event. As I was, I'm Bernhard Kaufmann from the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber. I'm working in the Department of Education and Policy, and there we also deal a lot also with the topic of digital education, and that's why I think it's very good that we have tonight this opportunity to talk about many different aspects about and upskilling. This is actually at the moment, we see this also from our members, a big topic and a big challenge for the next, I would say, future for the next years. Of course, jobs will change, current jobs will be different, and maybe the job market will change, not completely, but quite a bit. And so I think that's why and upskilling is really very important. I'm very curious about what we're going to hear tonight and which ideas we're going to share. And that's why I would also like to thank to Talent Garden and also to Vienna Up to host such an event. Because as you know, we in the Chamber, for us education is a big topic. We are players in the apprenticeship system in Austria. We actually are kind of responsible for apprenticeship training. We also have a big private training provider, and that's why we can see it's a good thing that we have an event where you host and give and upskilling a floor, and that you really have a topic for a whole night that is very important for our future, actually. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Raphael and Bernhard, for those introductory words. I have the honor to be moderating our panel today. My name is Julia Pichler. I'm the head of EduTech Austria Network for All in Educational Technology. And I want to welcome our panelists today on stage. And I will start with Martin Gieswein. Welcome. Martin, oh, applause. Martin, you are working at the WU Executive Academy and are also the former general manager of Nokia and will in Austria, and we will hear more about your background in a few minutes. Thank you so much. Oh, you can stay. Yes, perfect. Thank you. And then next, I want to welcome Irina Atzner. Very excited to have you with us today. Irina is leading a department at the Raiffeisen Bank International, and I'm very curious to hear more about your expertise, especially when it comes to networking. And last but not least, Petra Hauser, welcome. Petra is the founder and CEO of Exponential Business Hub GmbH, and you focus on digital transformation of organizations. We're very excited to have you here today. Amazing. So let's start with our first question. The theme or the topic of tonight is upskilling and reskilling, and especially job versus career, which is always an interesting aspect, and also has changed recently the past few years. What does it mean to have a job versus to have a career or to build each one? And now I'm excited to hear your perspective when you think about your own background and how your perspective on upskilling has changed over the past few years. And I would like to start with you, Martin.
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, I think upskilling and reskilling are very bad words. They are not very human. They say that you have to change something, which is hard for a lot of people. And I think we are reduced to a holder, a reservoir of skills. And therefore, maybe tonight, with all these fine experts also in the crowd, we can find also other words that more reflect what it's all about. I think it's about spending your time in a way that you are fit, that you're proper for the next task, for the things you want to do. It's very much about how you spend your time slots now, that you can do what you now have to do and that you are able to do other things in the future. And for me, it was always a job change without skills. So I normally was very vocal when it's about new jobs and careers and stuff like this, also in the entrepreneurship area. And I always did things, and then the most difficult thing came, the hard 3 months where I learned the job on the job. And I knew it then that it will be a hard time, but it was better then for me because it was very natural. But even nowadays I have to learn, I would say, at least every half year in my domain of digital business and reskill myself, coming back to that, to the next technology that is impacting us humans very much.
Thank you so much. It's very interesting, and I think we all know how the first 3 months in a new job impact us, right? And when you think about those skills that you mentioned, what would you say is the best strategy for an organization to, or for individuals to develop those skills? You mentioned it on the job. Do you have specific examples how that could happen?
I call it gentle embrace. I think I have a talent on an individual basis, so to say, to detect those people that know a lot and are willing to share, and I really ask them to help me. I think this open word of helping, please, I need help in that, regardless of the ranks, is very important. And when I translate this in your question also to the organizational level, we will hear a lot, I think, but having mentorships, having those more informal relationships, this culture of being open to help people to come into a new skill area, if this is institutionalized, then it's cheaper and more effective than huge programs that come from top down and everybody feels awkward with it. It's very much about this sometimes one-to-one human relationship in the organization.
Very interesting, thank you so much. Then I would like to continue with Petra. What's your view on upskilling and reskilling within your background?
Yeah, maybe I make a try. We could also talk about unlearning and learning new things. Yeah, maybe this puts it in a better way. And I think this is exactly what we have to do in this era that we are living in. We knew this term of new work since the 70s. Where it was coined, but this was when actually in America the automotive industry changed dramatically through automation. And these days, new work is so much more. I always putting it that way, that we add the lever of exponential technologies to this incredible change that we are going through. And this is much more than the pandemic showed us with hybrid work and remote work. This is so much more about having, on the one hand, the human factor really in the center, which also means that leaders have to take care about personal problems. For example, if the grandmother has a problem in getting a caring institution, maybe this is also a task of a leader to take care of that topic for one of the employees he or she is working with. So the human factor became more and more important. This is the one thing. And the other thing, and I named it already, is the exponential technology topic. And why is that? I mean, we knew that like Moore's principle of computing power doubling every 2 years, but now we see that there are so many technologies that are developing in that exponential way. And what exponential is something that we know since coronavirus spread, right? So this means that when we talk about new work, every employee has in a way to learn technology, to apply technology, not to be like in the algorithm, but to have the idea to be open for new things. And I had the pleasure to hold a keynote for Nestle Corporation on the topic of generative AI some weeks ago. And they are cooperating with OpenAI and Microsoft on Copilot. And let me ask the question to you guys, who knows what Copilot is? Okay, so yeah, some, but not the majority. And Copilot is the Microsoft application that will go into PowerPoint, into Word, into Outlook, into chat, into everything. Meaning that the new skill that every employee using those applications in some months will have to have is to prompt the right way, It also means that you do not have to know all these single features of Excel and PowerPoint anymore. You just tell Copilot, please draft a PowerPoint presentation of 10 pages out of this Word document. And the AI will do it for you. This is incredible. And this will change the scene completely. And Bill Gates puts it like and some of you, I mean, you're too young, but I actually had that pleasure to see the jump from MS-DOS surface to the graphical interface surface. So I saw that in the 80s. And what we are now experiencing with Copilot will be the same. Will be like a really, really incredible shift. And this is what we have to be open for these new things and willing to learn application of completely new technologies in a completely new way, which will also mean that the traditional kind of academies that we have at corporates are outdated today.
When I hear you say that that the way we work will change a lot, and also you mentioned COVID and the pandemic with the lockdowns, it reminds me of how every person needs to be their own leader or the leader in their own environment, which leads me to my question for you, which is, on an organizational level, how can we foster innovation and stay inclusive at the same time?
I would like to answer it with the thing that I think is the most important, and that is trust. And there is that so-called trust triangle, which consists of like 3 ingredients or 3 pillars of trust. On the one hand, it is empathy, true empathy, and I talked about the bad care institution thing. This could be like one part. It could also mean not texting about each other in an online call that we are doing, about the call. This would not be empathy. So first pillar, empathy. Second pillar, authenticity. And this sounds so easy. However, we know that already before the pandemic, more than 40% of people suffer from mental illnesses in the workforce, in the global workforce, and do not dare to discuss that topic with their superiors, or within the team. And this is not authenticity. We all have topics to deal with these days. And if we do not have the trust to bring that to our workplace, then we cannot be authentic, and then we cannot be innovative, because then we are industry actors. But we are not ourselves. So second pillar, authenticity, and the third pillar is logic. And that means that I can trust my team members that they have the capability, the skills, the willingness to learn, to tackle a certain task. If I do not have that logic, that kind of idea that my team members are capable and have the mindset of doing things, then I cannot trust them. So it's authenticity, logic, and empathy that build trust. And this is the most important thing that we need in corporations, to be inclusive and also to be innovative, because otherwise it is more like doing the same things repeatedly without taking any risk.
Thank you so much. Now, being reactive versus proactive comes into mind. So if we have trust, we have the opportunity to be proactive, and that fosters innovation. Irina, what's your view on upskilling, reskilling, and regarding your background, how has that view changed in the past?
I can subscribe to many things I have just heard. First, starting from Martin, who said, every time I change jobs, the first thought, and I will rephrase it in my own words, is, oh my God, what am I doing, right? Because you're having a gap. Your job is different from your skills, and so you have to catch up, and you have to catch up fast, because the more you go in the circles, the bigger the next job is, and then you don't have anymore a year to catch up and 5 people helping you around, but you're kind of often on your own. So you have to be proactively catching up in that skill gap and closing it. Second, I think what also resonated with me from Petra is being open. I think there are so many people who are not admitting to themselves there is a gap, right? And are not therefore open to changing and proactively bringing themselves up to a next level. I think being open to the need to change, being also self-conscious, I have a skill gap, and actually everybody does in the end, right? Because the moment we caught up, there is more catching up to be done. And also then self-reflecting and being open to change and to get knowledge from elsewhere is very important. In my specific context, I used to make a mistake whenever I would need to catch up with my new job, to think, okay, now I'll figure it all out. And I would ask people to the left from me, to the right from me, but I was, I think, relying to my own way of doing things a lot and inventing things a lot, brainstorming with some people a lot. What I found extremely useful 2 years ago is building an external network, which helps. And it helps incredibly. It was one of the coaching sessions that I had, and then I was lucky to get that suggestion. And you know, in the big corporations, I am coming from Raiffeisen Bank International, we have lots of Raiffeiseners around, right? It's full of people with a lot of banking background. There's a lot of knowledge in there. So one immediate step would be to ask to the left and to the right from you. There will be somebody who can help you out. But truth is, also in the organizations that change, they also put themselves on the trajectory of doing something where they don't have a skill as the whole organization, which is our case. I think we were making a mistake of self-reliance a lot. And so what I found very useful is to look outside of the organization, to build your external network, to have people who think differently. They don't have limits of your organizational setting anymore, and they maybe have done that before and maybe succeeded or failed. It's in any case useful just to have this diversity of thoughts. Helps you to upskill a lot. So it works within the organization, but it also works very well outside. And that outside is a push you have to make, which all of you are making right now, right? You're also mixing up with a group of people that don't have your limits, don't have your background, don't have your way of thinking, and that's a lot.
A part of joining events like this one, what would you say are good strategies for building an external network and getting outside of your own box to build a community that not only exists of the people that are just like you?
Yeah, so there are different methods to do so. One good one I found that works, at least for our organization, for myself personally well, is to find a community of people who are working on similar topics. So that's how we found one forum, non-profit banking association, which is having a mission of transforming banking in a digital world, right? It's consisting mostly on Scandinavian banks, but not only. There are also some big ones, HSBCs and BBVA and many others. And it is that community of banks that is working on new, interesting topics together, right? To the point that it's not only exchanging thoughts or sharing ideas, but it's also actually proactively co-creating certain things. Like, for example, now we're working on the concept of digital wallets. We're exchanging a lot on the digital euro topic. There's a lot of embedded finance talks. There are even banks cooperating with each other on some kind of innovations together. So it helps because it brings like-minded people on similar, not generic topic, but on your field. And I think finding those kind of communities or organizations or forums really helps a lot. The beauty of this specific forum is that we meet, and we meet regularly. So we see each other up to 4 times a year, and I was just in Oslo 2 weeks ago. And then you have a different level of trust. And I like the trust topic because when you have people around you that you trust, then also the exchange happens and flows much better.
Thank you so much. I think that's an amazing way to connect beyond your own box, let's say. And we've heard a lot about how work will change, or the way we work will change quite rapidly and, let's say, massively in the future. What do you think are the most important skills that we should focus on today to be able to master our work in the future? I know it's a very big question. So Martin, let's start with you again.
First of all, I think we have to divide the target group. Is it like us, like wisdom or office workers, right? Working with the computer, then it's a little bit different. The answer maybe to people that working with their hands. I think this we never should consider us as everybody in our small bubble. But having said that, I think it's so important to go a little bit away from all this, which skill is wanted, which skill is the next step in my career ladder. I think in these times that are described as very dynamic, it's very good to find the real power inside of you. And when you find ways of coping with stress, for example, then this is for me a foundation for any other learning. When you find the possibility to not get angry when you are criticized, then this is another basis for learning. And for me, it's very hard. For me, it's very hard, especially with my wife, because she knows much more than me, and she tells me at the second when I do something wrong, what to do. And therefore, she is the best trainer that I have. And she gives me so many possibilities for me, not, and now becoming serious again, when you get this feedback, not to retreat and say, oh, something wrong here, and I know this very well, but taking this in. And I think we haven't learned it, especially in the corporate area. We always thought, or I thought for myself, I had to pretend to know everything and not to embrace my incompetence and ask for help. So summing it up, I think laying the foundation, see how much you can take in as information and how much would be too much stress. And the second thing is to be really open to criticism, to new impacts. And for me, I had a training, value-based engineering. And I come from a very entrepreneurial side of digitalization. And we worked 3 days simply on the ethical aspects of a system. And I needed 2 weeks to digest it for my brain to now be able to use this as a skill because it was so new to me. And I would say 10 years ago, it would have been my first reaction to put it away as not valuable. And I think the sooner in your life you come to the point to take in what is coming to you and use it as a learning factor is a good foundation.
I'm curious, what's your way now to digest this new information that you're receiving?
First of all, I try to put my learning slots onto spaces where I'm ready. So it's not 9 o'clock and I have to learn something from somebody. I do it very much over asynchronous methods like podcasts, for example, or reading the thing at the time where I feel that I'm ready to take it in, first of all. And then I sleep over it 1 or 2 nights and go for a hike. And that seems to be my pattern, where without any inner push from myself to say, okay, now I have to put this into an effective structure and execute my new learning, just without anything, it all falls into like pieces, it falls together, it makes a structure for me, and then it's not something I learned, at that moment it's something that I know and I can use for others.
Amazing. I mean, there's a reason, I think, why we sometimes have the most amazing ideas in the shower, right? So breaks are very important to be able to retrieve all this information. Petra, what is your view on which skills will be most important? What should we focus on?
Yeah, I had a little moment to think about it, yeah. And I could obviously tell you what World Economic Forum says. I don't do that now. From my personal experience, I would say very, very important, maybe not most important, yeah, is true collaboration. And I give you an example, and this starts like with school children. Who these days are very digitally oriented. Yeah, they are on TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat, and then they are like gamers. And when I talk to my 17-year-old, I really find that these young people spend so much time in the digital world that sometimes they start to mix up digital world and real world. Yeah. For example, if, and this was like really amazing to me, one girl said, I was really upset because my boyfriend did not take care enough about my avatar in this game that we did together yesterday. And she was really upset. My God, yeah. They start mixing that up. And when it comes to companies, in a way, humans have to collaborate to come up with the greatest solutions because we cannot do it on our own, right? We need like our combined associative brain power, yeah, to do things. This is what I believe in, and this is also like adding to your point of the networks. Yeah, and this comes also to truth when we talk about these global problems, like challenges like ecological crisis, climate crisis, all these things. We have to collaborate even on a nationwide basis, or we should at least, to come to solutions. It will not work otherwise. We have to come to that. So this is something that we have to learn, and especially the younger generations possibly have a topic here. Yeah, and I also found that true when during COVID, school pupils were at home, yeah, in their bed, yeah, having online calls, not meeting again, yeah, for several months or even a year. So I think this true collaboration to come to solutions together as humans and to make the most of our combined brain power is something that we really, really need. And the second thing that you said, I would also like to stress that this is like our mental health. It was interesting because I did a hike with my son. He's 25 years old, and he will like inherit an apartment that he could never afford by like his work in his life, most probably. Yeah, and then he asked me, okay, I mean, what do you think? What are the most important things like I can achieve in my life? Because at your age, when you were my age, it was clear you wanted a career, you wanted to build up something, have a house with a garden, so the very classical things for the baby boomers, this was it. So what can it be for me? And I said, like, well, if I think about it, if I were in your shoes, I would focus on two things. On the one hand, obviously, to try to hold what you have inherited, but on the other hand, to make sure that your mental health will stay on. Because, I mean, in these days where like almost every day when you read the newspaper, and I do not mean those funny things like Austrian politics these days, I think you read that, yeah? So I mean like the real bad news that we get every day, it is not that easy, right? I mean, with all these challenges around us, how could we stay healthy? And I gave you the number of 40% of people in the global workforce having one or the other kind of a mental, yeah, this destruction, I mean, illness, whatever it is, yeah. So I think this is also a very, very important thing that you also named.
When I think about mental health and trust, which you mentioned previously, and then I think about all kinds of different organizations, how on an organizational level, again, can we encourage people to, or can we support them with their struggles? Can we make sure they are okay, if that makes sense?
I mean, I used to work with corporates as an employee, and now I'm working with them as a facilitator, trainer, coach. And I must say there are not many corporates, maybe I could not even name one, where I think this is part of a corporate culture yet. So I think what we can do is to work on ourselves. Yeah, I work with leaders exactly in this direction. Yeah. How could you, as a leader, work with your team in a way that there is a culture within your team created that gives that opportunity to trust? And I think this is like a cell, and then these cells can grow. But I think in that case, we can wait a long time if we wait for it to come top down. I think it has to be the other way around. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can learn from the corporate side that it became a topic. Actually, the psychological safety and the mental health of the people came strong, especially after the Corona times. It became, when the borders between work and home became very blurry and many people stopped feeling them, started filling up also the private time with work naturally. And then some other people started actually expecting, right, everybody to be their own light instantly. It did become a topic. So also in big complex organizations, there's a lot of work happening with the leaders to train that empathy muscle to really check in with your employees how they are, not just jump into hard topics and where is this task or where are you with this project, but really understand where mentally your people are, how deep in this, U-hole of a change they fall, and how you help them to go from the depression bottom topic to actually managing the change and mastering it. It's not there where it should be yet, but I believe at least it became a big topic on the agenda, right? And it starts with the top who should understand what's going on.
So training your empathy muscle as a leader, but as every person should. What else do you think, which other skills would you say are most important?
Yeah, I'll just make one comment on the empathy muscle before I come to the skills. I don't know if you noticed it, but after 2020, and then when things went to kind of normal again, we realized, many of us, that we have this habit. You start something, you have this half-an-hour calls, and you have 10 of them a day, right? Many probably know what it is if you work in a big corporation. And then we stop spending time in really talking to each other as people. We go straight to the topic because, you know what, in half an hour I have a different slot. And it's horrible what it does to the people, the pressure that you switch and then you have instantly to kind of adapt to something that people ask you. And okay, in my case, I'm the one asking questions. In many other cases, you are expecting that bombarding. It's just horrible. And then it was good to self-reflect and actually change that habit, and it already helps a lot. On the skills, I'll take your question as in what changes, because there were also many skills important 50 years ago, and I would argue most of them are just as important today as they were back then. At least from what I noticed, what becomes important these days is that with this pace of change, everybody changes, everybody is on the path of the digital transformation, everybody is upskilling, and I think what's important is to focus. That would be the first thing to do, at least to me. I'm naturally prone to go into too many directions, so for me it's personally also a topic. I want to do everything preferably at once and very fast, and then it does not help, right? To focus helps yourself and then also people around you who are supposed to work with you. Super important, and it's difficult because there are new exciting things coming your way every day, and then we tackle them, and there are 10 problems related to each of them. So instead of taking 10, it's better to take 1 up to 3 and go into it really deep. Second important skill, I think we need to embrace that discomfort we have when we deal with new tasks or with new jobs or with new roles, because it becomes permanent. At least, I don't know about you, at least I have a permanent, healthy discomfort with my job. And it was not the case 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you could wake me up at night after a party, I would tell you exactly how to create a new credit risk model. Because it was the skill, it was rather stable, there was certain methods. These days, can't do this anymore. There are so many topics we deal with, we have no idea what to do. It gives discomfort, fear, stress, and I think we need to learn to embrace it, right? It's okay. I talked to my boss the other day. He asks me, do you have it under control? And I sit there saying, no. He goes, explain it to me. I'm like, oh, how do I put it? Look, imagine I feel like I'm driving a car. It's rather new, I just learned the other day. I'm driving it really fast, and it's a bumpy road. So approximately that one. And he goes, that's exactly how I want you to feel. So to really, a bit of an extreme example, but it's a kind of to this point to learn to accept that gap. Everybody's winning it, as my coach also said. So you're one of those who are winning it. It's okay. Get used to that, so to say. So the focus, the get used to the gap, and then openness also to close it. We already discussed that. You may not be on your own closing that gap, right? There are people around who done things, think differently, worked on it before, can challenge you, and it's okay to be challenged and to also accept that discomfort, that whatever your ideas are may not resonate with the others. So this mental openness to get information from different places, I think it's also something we need to accept. And we do, personally. So whenever you get to cook a new meal or do something new, what do? You go Google. I don't know how to do it, let me ask my neighbor or let me Google it. At work, somehow we are ashamed. First of all, you can't Google that often. And secondly, how do I admit I actually don't know what I'm doing, right? So I think that's openness is super important, so let's also professionally be able to Google it, and that's gonna help a lot.
Thank you so much. So Google at work, or use ChatGPT as a brainstorming buddy, whatever comes to your mind. So we talked a lot about skills and what's important for us to develop, but then let's change the perspective again and talk about organizations and the topic of new work. So I'm thinking of flexible work hours, of a lot of trust, as we mentioned. How can organizations navigate this evolving landscape of what employees want differently, and they want more, let's say, freedom and trust? So how can organizations keep attracting top talent in this changing of different benefits and workplace structures? And this time I will start with you, Petra.
Yeah, okay. This is such an important question, because in the end it has to be defined by every company. Yeah, because you also mentioned you have blue-collar workers and you have the white-collar workers, so you have completely different environments within companies. So every company has to define it, and I would start small. And I had another keynote with the marketing, with the ERB, International Advertising Bureau. So many marketing people were there, and they asked had to be very innovative. So this was about new work, and I had my keynote there, and I also gave them this kind of definition that we found in the New Work Manifesto that we did with 80 companies from the DACH area. And after that, there was a discussion, and I mean, I wondered what was discussed. This was just flexible hours and flexible space. Yeah, so this is what new work is for 80% of companies these days in Austria. And this is not enough. This is how it starts. Understand that new work is so much more. It is about being chance-oriented with all these exponential opportunities that are out there. It is so much about human centricity, and we talked about that with empathy, with all the things already. And it is really about doing things completely differently to maybe 5 or 10 years ago. And this does not end with the people and culture department who themselves said that they today hire people by mindset and cultural fit much more than by any kind of, degrees that they have from somewhere. So define it, start by defining it. What does it mean for your company, and also for the different employees and workers that you have, because otherwise you have war. So I had that one company that came up with a kind of home office regulation, like 2 or 3 days a week you were supposed or allowed to work at home. And then they had these blue-collar workers who simply could not work at home. So for them this was not applicable. And they said, okay, if that is new work, we will not participate. So I will also stay at home now, yeah? So this was war. So think it to the end. You have to have a definition for everyone. It must be something in it for everyone. And also, it does not mean copying something that you Google, which is true for Netflix or Spotify or whomever. Yeah, you have to define it for your company, and you have to have a holistic view what new work means, because it includes so many things. For example, if you have a matrix organization, new work means working in cross-functional teams. It must mean that. Otherwise, you will not be able to handle all these exceptions that you talked about. So if you have a matrix organization, you cannot simply start working in cross-functional teams, right? You have to train people to have that layer on top of your matrix. And this can work, you just have to define it. And then you have to work on your open mindset, so that maybe if you have that team, which is led by a 25-year-old, and you have a 56-year-old who's just a normal team member, and the 25-year-old is the product owner, the project manager, this needs a kind of culture and mindset. So this is so important, yeah? So I could tell you hours what new work means, but I think these examples show already it has to be defined. And this can be done in workshops. And it can start on the top in this way, but it must be an approach bottom up and top down together, yeah, for this definition work.
And that also means that new work is does mean something different for every organization based on their needs. And yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, the principles and values, yeah, are overarching. Yeah. However, how you put it into norms, into situation-specific ideas how to handle things, this changes from company to company.
Irina, what would you add when it comes to new work and the navigation?
I was actually first struggling with the question. I was thinking, oh, new work. But as Petra was speaking, I was thinking, it is very individual to any organization, and it depends on what you want to do, right? There's one thing if you are building a startup, which is focused on whatever, a single beautiful product that you want to offer to the market, then the work that the organizational offer to the employees is one, and it's the other one. Other thing if you are running a big international traditional bank, and then your new work reality is completely different. So I think it starts with an understanding of what you want to do as an organization, what are you standing for, what are you building, which people do you want to attract, what you can promise to them, why would they join you, how do you, like I look at the organization as a product, right, and it's a product which is offered to all of us, and then we choose if we get it, and we get something out of it, and the organization also chooses if they get us. So it's always a matchmaking, and it always depends on what you're trying to build, and it's always then comes to which people you want to work with, and why would they join you in the end? What do you offer for them to thrive, right? That's roughly it. On the more general terms, what changed, I think the market became much more an employee market as compared to what it was before. It used to be an employer market, and there are also some old habits that I've also seen in my organization when we think we interview people and then we choose. And what I keep saying is it takes two to tango, and it's not only my job to find the right people, it's actually my job to convince them to join, right? And that, for me, this is the one thing I would probably pick, which is rather new. I mean, relatively new, that now the market is much more an employee market than it used to be. And then you give a reason to stay, just the same. After you have convinced people to join, you need to give them a reason to stay every day.
A matchmaking process. Martin, so what are your thoughts on new work within your perspectives?
I don't do any new workshops anymore. I think it's over the top, and everybody is very emotionally affected by that because of what we've had in the past. So, because new work is only old problems in new clothes, with a little bit of more remote and a little bit more of rules and stuff like this. And I think it all comes up what was the problem before. Therefore, to be very concrete, I do 3 methods normally when people ask me to help them with their new work. One is leadership by design thinking, or the better word is pimp my boss. So the team is allowed in that method to vocalize what they need from the line manager. As customers, this is a design thinking approach. And it opens up so much new rooms of things. And of course, something like you are not addressable on Fridays, and we never get a feedback on the voice messages and stuff like this. It comes up, and then it's like new work. The second thing is something for the team itself, which is superpowers and kryptonite. So we are asking openly everybody in the team to say what are their superpowers, what they can really do good. It's a overcoming of the imposter syndrome, so everybody shall be proud of something that they can do. Very good. And kryptonite is what makes them weak, so to say. Like Superman is weak when he has kryptonite stone nearby. And then again, new work problems come out like, oh, now that I know that you don't like those long emails, or you don't like me to ping you on MS Teams, okay, now that I know it's your kryptonite, I won't do it. So the team does very specific rules, just like Petra said. And you said, Irina, it's for every team. It's very individualized. And the end is that we are discussing about tools that help us. If there are online calls for 1 hour, then it's not 1 hour, it's 50 minutes because we have to have a coffee or go to the toilet. When we have a hybrid meeting, the manager has to design a hybrid advocate, who is responsible for the normally subdowned remote guys that are online. He's in the room and he's the advocate for those people. Or, for example, stop doing those general rules or just have them because we have to have them, like working hours and how many days at home. But then it has to be an individual communication contract between the team members or the manager and the employee. I worked in Germany for 2 years and I had a lot of guys at different sites, and we were like new work back then in 2006 already without COVID, because we were dislocated. And I had a deal with everybody, with with everybody saying, you don't want to be supervised, okay, you have to report to me once a week. This was individual, and we were fine. The other one said, I need to hear you every day, but I'm in Stuttgart, and I was in Düsseldorf. I said, okay, in the evening I go for a run, I can call you. Is it okay for you? That's perfect, then I'm in the car. Then we discuss everything, and you help me with my customer situations. So it's about this individualism. So rather discussing it on a too high a level, which does not work for most of the things, go back to a tool set where the people are again feeling relief from the burdens and have the power to work their jobs.
Sorry, Julia, I have to disagree with Martin at one point, because you said like new work is like old things in new clothes. And I disagree, and I tell you why, because I thought a lot about new work and what is like the new paradigm. And I found there are like 4 things that show this really fundamental change that we see these days. And there are 4 reasons for that I found. The first are the exponential technologies, and we discussed that already. So exponential technologies change the way we work, but not just the way we work, but also the opportunities that are out there. We do not live anymore in this linear and local world that you also described like 10 years ago. You knew exactly what to do when you woke up during night. Now we have not just challenges, but also so incredible chances, living in that exponential technology world by innovatively applying those technologies. This is the one thing. The second thing is globalization. So when I coach leaders, I have more and more leaders coming to me with that problem of having like 3 people of their team sitting in Germany, 3 people sitting in Austria, and 3 in India. So managing these intercultural teams is also part of new work and is a challenge for itself, because we do not know like how different mentalities communicate. Let's start with that simple thing. Maybe I tell something to an Austrian and this is perceived in a completely different way compared to the Indian guy. So this is something I have to learn. This is part of new work. So technologies, globalization. Third, generational shift. We have like now 50% of the workforce, generation X, Y, Z, and then we have the baby boomers still there. And this is the other challenge. And I'm offering workshops in that field now, so many workshops, because working in these new forms of multifunctional, cross-functional teams with people of different age groups is a challenge, also part of new work. And number 4 is that brittle environment that we live in. Inflation means you have to do things differently. The climate topic, the ecological problems mean that we have to work in a much more sustainable way in companies, otherwise we will not find anyone who would like to work for us, if we do not change here. Then we have the social topic, the social topic of some people with a lot of money and many people with no money, also a challenge for itself, also changing work, obviously, like bedingungsloses Grundeinkommen and things like that, that are suddenly on the agenda. And then we have the political things like the Ukraine war, yeah, also changing the way we work dramatically for companies. And these 4 topics really, really lead to a fundamental change of work that I see, which is much more than old things in new clothes. This is how I would put it.
The good thing is that we work a lot together, and we offer the clients different perspectives, so they can choose, which is great, which is really great. And I love the way you see it from this overall view and having the different angles on it. And this is absolutely true. And I'm coming more from the individual solution side, which perfectly meets in the middle, because an organization has to know all those things and those impact factors that you named, and the team doesn't have to know it because it might be an additional burden to them or an academic excuse to them to have it very, very hard in their jobs. So I'd rather solve those 3 individual topics, and the organizational has to be ready to offer solutions for all those global impact factors that you named. So I think we meet there very much in the middle, and it's very different if you operate on a 3-team level or on a strategic CIO level.
True.
I will have to subscribe to what Petra was saying, and I just thought of an example that we have brought to solve certain customer problems. We have brought superior technology to the bank, and we scaled it to many markets. It's supplied by Salesforce. And then the technology is as good as the people who are operating it, right, obviously. What we have started witnessing is that people tend to, no surprise, digitize and use the new tools to do things they have done before, but just a more convenient way, right? Which is not why we have brought Salesforce with their high-end solutions to the bank. And then it's 2 things. First, you need to break habits and to have people think, okay, now I have that, and it's designed to do something different from what I was doing before. So how do I get there first? Second thing which we have witnessed is that Salesforce actually innovates on a much higher pace than we're able to catch up with, right? And I spoke to many other customers of them on their conferences, actually another source of external networks. Everybody would say the same, right? That these guys are just putting so much there that you don't even have time to catch up and consume it all. So what we started doing is really nudging people into this continuous education, not only on this specific example, but in general, so that you can do your job, not today, but in a few days from now, you need to continuously educate yourself on the technologies. Or take cloud and check with business leaders how many of them actually understand the power of the cloud technology and how it can transform their business. Many would think, like, why would I care? It's well, it used to be on-premise. IT guys are doing some job, putting things in the cloud. But actually, if you learn to think in the way that you always want to get some opportunity from the new technology, you will know how much of business agility comes with the cloud technology, right? Which many, I would argue 9 out of 10 would have no idea that they actually get a whole different way of innovating on their business model if they go that way, right? So indeed, the technology does give you a big reason to continuously boost your skills, and it is new.
So this is the perfect time now to open up for questions from the audience. Don't be shy. Which questions do you have? You will get a microphone, and I'm very curious about what you think.
Thank you. Actually, it's a question, not a specific one, but for all of you. I see a big problem with the speed of change. And I would first frame the question. So Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, said, I think some days ago, in 10 years, like 80% of the jobs will not only be changed, but also be automated to rather big extent. So my question is, if you see this or if you hear this, how do we make sure on an organizational level that nobody is left behind? And how can we foster like this change in a in this high pace. Like, you know what I mean? Like this mindset shift.
Yeah, maybe I start. I think it is such an important topic and such a big challenge that even Brockman does not know an answer. So when you actually listen to his videos and watch the videos, you see, I mean, that they are developing, they are like working on these new technologies, and it's not just generative AI. The next thing is then AGI, and I mean, they are not too much focused on the unintended consequences. And the bad news is no one is really taking care of that topic on a global level, yeah, because I mean, Europe is too small to take a lead in that, because it's India and China and like United States who are ahead of us, miles ahead of us within these new technologies, and the value-oriented ones are the Europeans, but I mean they're like this little spot on the map. So then you would say, okay, it is I mean, thing for governments. It is a topic for governments. However, governments as such are always like lagging behind. They cannot do otherwise, because this is part of their mindset in nature, because they are stabilizing things, they are not the front runners, they cannot do it. And we had a discussion here at Talent Garden with regard to the new work topic as such, and there was a philosopher from Freud University, and he said there is so much need for organizations to take over tasks that normally governments should take over. So this is now on this meso level of the companies. However, as we see, companies cannot keep pace with that change that is like now exponential on the technology side. They simply cannot, because our human brains from the socio-genetical code cannot change that fast, so we cannot. So at a certain point, we have to come to completely different solutions. One solution is actually not a very nice one, it is a revolutionary one. This is one scenario. And the other one is a scenario whereby we really provide a kind of basic income to everyone. This is also already discussed, yeah, nationwide. And I think it will come, if you ask me personally. And this is also, I mean, obviously also linked to challenges, because what to do with that free time then, even though I can feed myself, Maslow's pyramid, I mean, I'm in the middle, yeah. What do I do? Do I do gaming, watching the TV then as a blue-collar worker every day? So this is a challenge, yeah. In a way, I believe that we humans in the evolution show that we can adapt somehow, yeah. It will not be very elegant, it will not be very nice, but me personally, I have the hope that it could go without revolution, without war. I really hope that, because I believe in technology and I believe in the genius of humans collaborating, hopefully worldwide. This is also the thinking of Singularity University, whose ambassador I was for years, so this is like my hope and my belief, otherwise I would get depressed, yeah? But I think there is no answer yet, nowhere in this world.
All technology steps in the past have produced more work. And what I'm frustrated, and let's see if this is also with AI, and I'm very frustrated actually with the productivity effects of the last 20 years of digitalization overall. Actually, we have a few digital giants who accumulated a lot of money, but the productivity gains are not exponential, they are linear, which is normal for an economy. So actually there's a big hope that if we use it right, that it gives us really a good potential, and we always say ourselves we are losing jobs, and let's say if this really is that case this time. But on the other side, I take myself as an example. So you described in 10 years, I think we don't need me as a teacher for executives anymore. So I get lost with the AI revolution. So I have one idea, and I'm practicing this since November last year, which is embracing my enemy. learning the AI, giving AI trainings. And it might be so that in 10 years, I'm not the one that is giving the theory or the knowledge. It might be the machine. And if I'm then getting the same salary for massaging the necks of the ones that are sitting in front of the machine, I'm totally fine because I'm contributing to their learning. So as fun as it sounds, for me, it's a way to deal with the whole thing in a very positive way. We will have a lot of negative discussions about this just around the AI Act that is currently in political discussion and might impact Europe in a very negative way, just as the GDPR impacted us negatively, and we are too small as Europe, as Petra said. So we will have a lot of negative words anyway. And if this leads us to the point where we are technophobic, then this will cost a job.
Completely with Martin. I think what was happening, if you look historically, and you don't need to go back too long, right? If you look at what happened with the personal computers coming, created more jobs. It destroys jobs, but it creates more jobs. If you look at what happened with the internet coming, same thing. iPhones, smartphones in general, same thing. So I'm also rather on the positive side when it comes to the AI. That it will actually create more jobs and it will make some other jobs more meaningful. I hope it can also be used for much worse things than that, which it will be. And I hope that will be minimized.
Thank you for your question. One other question. Yes, from the other side.
First of all, thanks so much. And I'd like to make a question for Petra concerning the part of you were mentioning, like during the middle of the talk, about the culture of the company, the way that the company are opening, the mindset changing, a lot of perspectives. So as a person that it's out of the company that I don't know so much, even don't have so much contact with their employees. And I would like to understand better their culture, because I have some friends that when they were searching for new jobs or changing careers, the way that they were searching for the companies, they saw a lot of beautiful things, like they are open-minded, they are friendly, but when they got in, they saw a different reality. And their perspectives, their mindset was like the same as, I don't know, 80s. So in this moment that I'm facing myself now, that's basically changing my career, changing jobs, I'm kind of afraid and scared to get in a company, and in the end I got a burnout, for example. So how can I face this challenge?
Yeah, I understand your question. The thing is, I would like to give you two answers. One thing is, maybe you do not like join completely, but you try out the company by doing a training, something like that, if that is possible. The other thing is that very similar to how you choose a school for your children, you always look at the teacher. So I think what is really important is that you get to know your teammates before, and maybe go for a beer with them and really get this like not marketing oriented, but kind of real idea of what the company is like. So I would really try to avoid the people and culture department as a first point of contact, but I would like to get to know people who are working there and give you a kind of clear view of how it is working there. And then I would definitely like to know my team, my superior, with whom I will work. And then go for your gut feeling, yeah? Because you will feel that. And this is something maybe also when we talked about those skills or capabilities that we should develop. My idea would be to develop our gut feeling, to listen so much more about what our body says. This is something that we have to learn new. Because, I mean, we had that when we were children, but then we were so much rationalized by going to school and having those jobs and being a kind of industry actor, as I call it. But if you go for your gut feeling and trying to get real conversations with company representatives before you even go to the hiring interview, then I think this could be a way to tackle that challenge.
Thank you so much for your question. We have time for one more question before we wrap up.
So I have a question in terms of somewhere I read in my studies that we have two kind of people in organization. One is more generalist, one is more specialist. And when we talk about the future skills, do we need more generalist or do we need more specialist? And how do this will work in terms of 3 to 5 years or 10 years next? Yeah.
My answer would be, I would reframe it. We need more growth mindset people and less fixed mindset people. And if you listen to Brockman and the generative AI folks, what they say is that you need more generalists that are like more of this mindset topic-oriented people, because the specialist thing will be anyhow done by the AI. Yeah. So, but I would reframe it. I would talk about fixed mindset people and growth mindset people, and this is really kind of standing expression that you can even Google. So then you get all the characteristics of these different types.
I'll just add to that. I had exactly this discussion the other day, and there was a debate with one of the big guys in our organization who was arguing, that he can afford working with superstars, as in specialists, even though they're lacking certain social skills and emotional intelligence, and so sort of a Dr. Houses, right, of this world. And he can manage them, so he could argue, they're bringing the great results, I would rather have them. And we had a debate of how much you are willing to compromise on the atmosphere in the team, the cooperation with the peers, the people management part for that. And after a long debate, I actually think you need both. You need a good mix of these two. And maybe one question one needs to ask themselves if they want a very specialists in certain areas to manage teams, or they want to rather let them be specialists in certain areas. But again, here you can have both. So I would say a healthy mix of specialists and generalists, I would argue, is here to stay even. Doesn't matter the generative AI. There is somebody who needs to be able to ask the right questions and interpret answers. And for that, you do need specialists.
If your question was a little bit oriented also what would be an advantage for you in the job market, then I can only share my experience of my life. I had so many different jobs. I think I calculated 20. And as long as I had the job, really, from all the different jobs that you do when you're very young, just for the money, and then maybe for more money when you're in the middle ages, and then maybe something that is for purpose. But this is changing now. Okay, back to the question. If I understood correctly, then as long as I do a job, I try to get down and be specialized with this T-shape that we learned a long time ago. I try to be better and better and better at that job as long as I have it, because I know that I will have a lot of other jobs. And every T-shaped going down means that at the bar, I get broader in my generalistic. So use the moment that you have for growing or going deeper in that phase. And then when you're at a certain age or a certain experience level in both, in generalistic and in specialized, nobody will ask you anymore. They will take you for your reputation, and nobody will ask if you rather went that way or that way. I think it's a very academic question that you can do, but see all those jobs as experiences and go as deep as you can with your quality of work. That will pay off every time.
Thank you for this excellent question. We will now wrap up, but I'm sure we will have time afterwards to exchange more individually. and I would like to wrap up with some rapid fire questions, which means that I will ask a question, would ask you to answer with just one sentence, and at best not a sentence with a lot of commas. So the first question would be, what is the best career advice you've ever gotten? Petra.
Well, one sentence, I would say be straight, especially in Austria, not go for the political way, be straight, so that you can look into your eyes every morning when you see yourself in the mirror.
Irina?
I got one years ago. It's obvious, but it helps me. They said, do what you love and do it really, really well. So back to the depth, but it helps.
Don't promise something because you want to please somebody that you cannot deliver.
Thank you. Next rapid fire question is, how do you actively keep learning on a personal level? Martin.
Identifying the right podcasts or YouTube videos, and if the YouTube video is too long, I put it into Firefly's AI and get a AI summary.
Irina.
Also podcasts. I walk to the office. I have 20 minutes of podcast there and then back. The external network, and just by doing stuff. That's it.
Petra.
For me, it is always say yes if I am asked to do a keynote on a topic where I have no idea about, and then I get all the information from every possible source that I can get to become really, really an expert, in that topic.
Amazing. And the last rapid fire question is, which book or resource would you recommend when it comes to career development? Your favorite one?
I hate business books, I have to admit, with passion. So I'm reading fiction, and that's the best for me. Sorry, can't help you.
A podcast you love?
I love Lex Friedman, but it's not about career. It's about everything else, and his podcasts are like 3.5 hours long, but they are beautiful. There are so beautiful minds from different industries, and I fall in love with their intellect, and actually with Lex Friedman's intellect, so that one I do recommend.
Perfect.
I go with that, and the series that you should watch for your competence development planning is Star Trek, especially Picard, and everybody who knows that they have so much lust for learning and discovering new things, and they have their business, their economy in a way that they can afford to learn new things because they have the replicator.
Well, with regard to books, I only read novels, and like my hack is, because I always used to watch Netflix, especially during the pandemic, I got used to that, and this was such a bad habit. And since some weeks, I now started reading novels again. Every novel that I can get, every recommendation that I can get. The last one that I read was Bösland, from the guy who did also that TV series, Die Todesfrau. I don't know whether you know that, so really, really recommendable. Another book on new work, which is good, is Remote, Not Distant. Very nice book, also on how to develop corporate culture. Yeah, and that's it from my side.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Martin, Irina, and Petra, for joining us today. And now we will open up to networking, to build up your external network, to try out some educational technology, EduTech solutions that are waiting for you. Have fun and be curious, and thank you so much for joining us today.
And a big thanks to Julia for moderating the event. And a big round of applause. She did a great job. And also to the other Julia from EduTech Austria that, I don't know where you are there, that you also co-organized the event with Talent Garden. And last but not least, Niklas for the streaming. He did an amazing job. Thank you, Niklas. Thank you, Raphael, for introducing the event. And as always, you did a great job saying what are we doing here at Talent Garden. Thanks a lot for all your what you have done, and thanks for all the team of Talent Garden, Sandra, Natalie, Olta, and all the ones that are not here today. And now we can really enjoy the cocktails outside. Thank you very much.